Dear Dairy, it's been a little while since I've done one of these, so try to bear with me if at all possible. Um, might seem a little bit stilted and uh, uncoordinated, but that's because I haven't done one of these in a while. Um, as you can see from the old clock on the wall, by that I mean the lack of sunlight outside. It is pre-dawn. It is actually 5:05 in the morning on whatever day this is, Friday, August 18th, 2017. I've been awake since about 2:30, having gone to sleep at about 11:30. When I went to sleep, I told my housemate that I was going to try to go to bed early so that I could get the appropriate amount of sleep before I have to do some voiceover stuff with George Ledoux later on today. See how well that worked. However, caveat, I did say to him, to my housemate, not George, as I was walking away, that I would probably wake up in 2 hours, given the fact that I was trying to get the appropriate amount of sleep. So I was only off by a half an hour, really, well, an hour and a half, whatever. I got about 3 hours, and then I'm awake. Why am I awake, though? This is the part that, well, this is honestly, this is why I'm making the diary entry. And yes, I know I said dairy at the beginning. For those of you who have not seen my video diary entries before, I always made a joke about the transposition of the A and I between dairy and diary and how I think that's funny. And so I have always called these Dear Dairy. If you look back through my channel, you will see way too many of these videos covering various minutiae, from minutiae to shiny minutiae, to unimportant stuff, to important stuff that was going on in my life at the time, and my mind at the time. So this is the most recent entry in that thing. So I woke up about 2:20 or so, and I was laying there thinking about my life, such as it is, and what's wrong with it? What am I not doing right? Why am I not incredibly super famous and amazing and blah 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 and everything yet? It's a thought that happens for me quite often, because I am not yet super famous. And so there's a friend of mine, very, very, very dear friend of mine. He and I have been friends for more than half of his life, and more than half of mine, now that I think about it. But I have been friends with him longer than anyone else in my life. Other friends that I've had have drifted into and out of my life, as friendships are wont to do. But with him, it's been pretty consistent over the last 25 years. As I said, very, very dear friend of mine. And one of his most consistent complaints, and I use that term somewhat loosely, while it is a complaint, it's not playful, but it's not harsh, really. One of his consistent complaints about me is that I am not assertive enough, that I do not take without questioning. Now, that will give you probably some insight into how our relationship works and what sort of a relationship it is at its very core. But he has always wanted me to be much more assertive, much more domineering. And I think to say to take without asking is the right way to put it. Because it's important to remember that he and I are there for the same thing. I mean, we are literally, truly there. This is not a case of, well, he wanted it, being stated in a courtroom later. This really is the case. That's why we're both there. When we get together, that's more or less what we get together for. So we're both there for the same reason. We're both there because we want the same thing. And so, knowing that, why don't I? Because I know that part of me is in there. Oh, I know it's in there. I can always hear it just banging at the door, screaming at me, the rest of me, saying, you know what he wants. Take it. You know that he wants it. He has told you multiple times, in no uncertain terms, exactly what he wants you to do. Do it. Why are you not doing it? Why are you not giving him what he clearly has asked for, demanded? Fear. Plain and simple. Fear. Now, it's twofold in that case, because one has always been this long-standing fear that if I give him what he wants from me, that's all. That'll pretty much probably be the end of our relationship, such as it is. Everyone else that I've known in his life who's been in a relationship with him, as soon as they've given him what he's been asking for, the relationship tends to kind of, falter and fade after that. And so it's almost a sort of self-preservation that I have not given him what he wants from me, because he always wants more. He's just not quite getting it, and he always wants more, and if I can just keep him on the line a little bit longer. Now that logic works up to a point. He's also matured a lot since that fear first cropped up in my brain. We both have. And he and I have talked about this, again, in no uncertain terms. I mean, we have talked about this in these exact terms. And multiple times, actually. And years ago, when we were talking about it, probably for the first time, he said, there's probably some truth to that. And so I felt that kind of reinforced, okay, well, then I guess I made the right decision. But that's not the ooh. I was going to say that's not the thrust of what this is supposed to be about, but I'm not going to, well, I guess I did. Anyway, that's not exactly what this is supposed to be about. It is and it isn't. It's about the me part of that. And the part of me part of that he claims to want. And I know he does. So why don't I? Again, fear. But this is not fear of, if I give him finally what he's been wanting all this time, that's it. He's got it. That's it. He can go. It's not that fear. It is a different, deeper fear that has been within me for longer than I've known him. And it is a fear of a part of me, the part of me that sits there banging at the thing saying, damn it, do this. It is the part of me that is my sense of assertion. My sense of what, when used properly, is boldness. What, when used improperly, is conceit and blatant assholism, for lack of a better word. And I know it's in there. I know that part of me is in there. I can feel it all the time. Just it's like a dog on a short chain in the backyard that never gets let out. It's constantly chomping at the bit to do what it's supposed to do. And I have these multiple aspects of me that break down and analyze these kinds of things, both in myself and other people. And I know intellectually that if I would make use of it, that it wouldn't worry me so, that I would understand how to take it out on walks, maybe take it to the dog park, to be able to lengthen the leash, but not let it off the leash, because that's what I worry about. The few occasions where I do or have made use of this resource within me, it has gone well. And that worries me, because I know how much I like the way it feels when it goes well. And the drive to say, all right, fine, we will open the floodgates on this dam a little bit more. Actually, that's not bad. That's also another good parallel to draw. Actually, it's a really good parallel to draw. It's like a dam that has this huge volume of water behind it, and I open the gates just a little bit to let it trickle through, because I'm afraid if I open it too much, the dam will crack, and everything that's behind it will push its way out. And so it is fear that prevents me from using the dam the way it's intended. It's you know, a hydroelectric dam. It's a windmill. It's the electrical socket in your wall. You know, in each of these cases, they are resources that are controlled. It is the difference between a hydroelectric dam and a flood. It is the difference between, you know, an electrical socket in the wall of your house versus a bolt of lightning. It is the difference between the gentle breeze that turns a windmill to generate power or grind up grain or whatever it's supposed to do, and a hurricane. And it is fear of that potential that keeps me from reaching my potential. Different potentials, I think. It is fear of that potential, what part of me considers an inevitability, because it's like a drug. I am afraid that if I start using it, I will like it too much, and I will not be able to stop myself from using it too much, until eventually I have spent so much time being some horribly full of himself, conceited asshole that, while he has talent, nobody wants to work with him anymore because he's an absolute prick. And I am so afraid of becoming that person that I will not allow myself to be bold enough to get the work that I want. What do I do? How do I give myself permission? That is a terrible way of phrasing that, because no, it's not. It's a great way of phrasing it. It's so outside of my normal operating parameters that it seems like a terrible way of phrasing it. Because giving myself permission to do things is not something I am extraordinarily good at. In fact, it's something I am terrible at. Once I've got a job, I will throw myself into the work. This part's going to sound a little bit conceited. I have many cases of situations where I'm in the situation where I'm doing the work, and the people that I'm working with are like, "Man, I had no idea you could do that. Damn, that was really, really great." And I'm like, "Thank you." And then later I feel guilty for so genuinely saying thank you, because that seems overly prideful. When the first time I was working at Electronic Arts, this is back in 2009, was right near the end of that stint, it was I don't remember exactly when it was that it started. EA has sort of an internal Craigslist sort of thing called WAD ads. And they put out a call saying, hey, we're working on Dead Space 2. We need people to do placeholder voiceover. It's not going to be in the final game, but we need stuff to lip sync to, so that we can get all the animations right. If you want to audition to do this thing, please get in touch with us. And I was like, yeah, okay. Actually, wait, let me back up a little bit further. Some of you have heard me tell this story before. Let me back up to, I think it was 1998, maybe. God, almost 20 years ago now. I was working on a kids show in San Jose called Adventures with Kangarati. It starred Pat Morita. It was great, great show. A lot of fun to be on. Great crew, great cast. It was very cool. And I had a vast array of jobs, but I was part of the crew, not part of the cast. Anyway, so one day I was taking an armload of videotapes into the production trailer to put them into the vault, which was basically just a big filing cabinet. But anyway, I was walking past one of the directors, Elise Robertson. Oh, God, she was so much fun to work with. She was talking to the guy who played Kangarati, who's like a 5 billion D level black belt in every kind of martial arts you can name. A guy named James Harris. Amazing guy. I keep gushing about... Ooh, wrong phrasing. Whatever. About how wonderful these people were, but they really are awesome people. James is just an incredibly kind, wonderful, gentle soul. Whatever. Not whatever. He is. But she was talking to him because she was trying to get him to do a voice for her. And as I walked past them, I picked up on what they were talking about. And so as I was putting the tapes away, I was kind of eavesdropping. No, I wasn't kind of eavesdropping. I was listening because I knew what they were talking about. And she wanted him to do the voice of the robot from Lost in Space, because one of the characters on the show had a little robot piggy bank, and they wanted to do the voice for that. And he was like, no, I'm fine playing Kangarati and doing the thing. He wasn't the voice of Kangarati. Mickey Thomas from Jefferson Starship was actually the voice of Kangarati. But anyway, he was the physical body actor. So he was like, I don't know. I'm just, and I knew what they were talking about. I'd heard quite clearly what she wanted. So I went in there and I said, look, James, it's easy. All you got to do is go back into the studio and grab the air conditioner hoses that we use and just sort of flail them about and say, "Danger, Roy Orbison!" And Elise looked at me and was like, "That's the voice I want." And that part of me deep inside it was like, yes, got it. That's the way it's supposed to work. And within about a half an hour, we were in one of the voice booths there at it was a PBS television station, public broadcasting system, called KTEH in San Jose. And we were in one of the voice booths, and it was me and Elise and one of the other producers, I think. And the three of us in that booth. It was a little snug, but still. Did the voice that she wanted. And she stopped and she asked me, she said, "Have you ever considered doing this for a living?" And I said, yeah, sometimes. I really hadn't. I mean, I knew I enjoyed acting, but I had never, I'd considered being an actor, but not a voice actor. Hadn't really thought about it that way. And she said, "You should." I said, okay. And I kind of filed it away and didn't really think about it too much. And then years later, when I was working at EA, this thing comes across for Dead Space 2. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. I'll go for this. I've been told before that I should consider doing voice acting, so yes. And so I went and I auditioned, and they said, okay, cool. We're going to have you voice this character. Remember, it's not going to be in the final game, so don't expect that. I'm like, it's okay. I understand what placeholder means. It's fine. And so I think I don't remember exactly which day the Friday was, because it was 2009. It was October 30th, I think, maybe 29th. Halloween fell on a weekend in 2009, and it was the Friday before that. Now, EA, they do a lot of internal community stuff. They have a daycare center, and people bring their kids and whatnot, and the kids spend the day at daycare, and they kind of go to school there. In some ways, it's almost like a little miniature city. But on Halloween, they have big costume contests and everything, and so I was dressed as a polar bear. Go figure. One of the producers was dressed as Robin the Boy Wonder from the Batman TV series from the 1960s with Burt Ward and Adam West. Wow. Okay, bit of a neural failure there. Anyway, he was dressed as Robin the Boy Wonder. So two of the producers are sitting in the control booth with the audio engineer, and I'm in the vocal booth with just a pile of fur around my feet and a head sitting off on the chair next to me. And I've got the script on the stand in front of me, and we do the recording and everything's fine, and then the producer's like, awesome, thank you so much, that was great, and they leave. And the sound engineer comes in, and I give him the thumb drive because he's going to give me copies of the thing, because that was one of my things. I was like, can I please get copies of this for my demo reel? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. So he's copying the files onto my thumb drive, and he stopped and he kind of looked at me and he said, have you ever considered doing this for a living? And at this point, I could honestly say that yes, I had, because ever since Elise had mentioned it years before, it had been a seed that had been kind of germinating in the back of my mind. And he said, you should. You really should. You put more into that than most of these so-called professionals that they have in here. And that really resonated with me in a major way. It is one thing for friends and family to tell you, oh, you're so good at this, you should do this professionally. When the sound engineer of a AAA games company tells you you should be doing this for a living because you put more into this than most of the so-called professionals that they bring in here, you give that the weight it is due. Okay. Good thing I'm getting copies of these files then. And like the next month, there was a massive layoff, and that was, the end of the thing. But I had my files, and I was like, okay, I have a massive tax return this year because I had told the IRS to take extra money out of my paychecks on top of all the money they were already going to take out, so that I was guaranteed a return every year. There would never be a point where I wouldn't get a return. I love doing that. I think it's never mind. That's about that. But I got a huge return that year, like $3,000, because I kind of screwed up and had them take like an extra 10% out of my paychecks, which was a lot. But I don't live a very extravagant lifestyle, so it's like I don't live in an extravagant lifestyle at all. So it's very easy for me to lighten by 10%, but especially when I know I'm going to get it back later. And so with that money, I went and I talked to a friend of mine who was also a sound engineer. And I told him, I said, I want to do this for a living. What do I do? What kind of gear do I need? Now, he's worked with me before. He holds, at various furry cons, he holds a voice acting panel where he'll bring in a lot of his gear and he'll set it up with vocal booths and whatnot, and he'll write up scripts and everything, and then we do these performances, and he gives critique, and everybody gets copies of the files when they're done, and it's a really cool little panel that goes on at the conventions. And he'd worked with me before on this, on this thing. He'd heard me before. And so he said, okay, I know your voice. I know what you can do. So here's the gear that I would recommend that you get, and that's where all my gear came from, was from his recommendations. And so I decided, that's it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for this. This is what I'm going to do with my life. This is my career. Since that day, which was in 2010, it's been 8 years now, almost 8 years. I think the total number of companies that I have approached and said, you should hire me. Here's what I can do. 5, maybe. Most of the rest of the time, I go to various, voice acting sites, and I put up my profile, and I put up samples of what I can do, and I wait. I sit back and I wait, and on occasion, something will pop up, and I'll say, yeah, I'd love to try out for that. And I try out for that, and it usually goes pretty well. But that is a very passive way of doing things. That is not bold. And the old saying, fortune favors the bold, it's very true. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be insanely famous. I don't want to be, the first name on everybody's lips when they talk about a voiceover actor. Well, that actually wouldn't be too bad. But anyway. I don't mind being rich. I don't mind being the first name on everyone's lips when they think of voiceover actors. What I don't want to be is a conceited asshole who thinks that he is all of that in a packet of chips. Someone who is so overbearing in his confidence of who he is, what he has done, and what he can do for you. I don't want to be that person. And it is my fear of becoming that person if I let my pride do what it wants to do what it's designed to do. But I'm afraid that these safeties, the checks and balances that I would have in place to keep it from going too far, that they will not hold, or that once I start to be more bold and more assertive, and I actually go out and say, you should hire me. Not, hey, you should hire me because I'm good. Not that. But a very casual, likable sort of confidence. The difference between being bold and being conceited. To be able to go to a company and say, hey, I'm a professional voice actor. Here are my demo reels. Feel free to give them a listen. And if you like what you hear and you have any work for me in the future, please feel free to contact me. And that's all I have to do. That's all I have to say. So why does it feel so wrong? So it feels so overbearing to start writing that email or something, or to be standing at a convention. Like if I go to Twitch or TwitchCon, or if I go to like a games convention here in California or something, that I'm standing there looking at a booth for a game that I want to work on. I really want to work on, and all I have to do is go over there and strike up a conversation and tell them I'm a voice actor. And when they say, "Really? That's so cool. What kind of voices can you do?" And then I just spit out a couple of them. I know I can do it. I've done it 1,000 times. But this fear, this trepidation, this worry that if I do that, I'm going to like it because it's going to work. And I'm going to like the fact that it works. And I'm going to extend further and further and further until I cross that threshold from bold into conceited, from approachable to asshole. How do I do this? What do I do? I mean, I would say that if there was an easy answer, I imagine that somebody would have said so by now. Some people would be doing it all over the world. People would be, accomplishing their goals with ease. If there was an easy answer, everybody would know what it was. But I get the sneaking suspicion that maybe the answer is easy. Maybe it is easy. But it's the fear of what might come of it if we're not careful. Or if we start out being careful, but we just stop worrying about it later on. Because I'm worth it. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, dude, I'm really good at this. Everybody knows it. Everybody says it. Everybody. Every time I do a thing, everybody's like, oh my God, thank you so much. This was so cool. I know. Thanks. You're welcome. Anytime. It just feels too easy to fall into that. Crap, I've been at this for 30 minutes. Okay. The sun is coming up. It is 5:36 in the morning. The sun is coming up, and I have to do something. I might go back to sleep. I don't know. I'll figure. Actually, I'm too wired to go to sleep now, because now I'm agitated. I'm angry with myself because you know why. You've heard it over the last half hour. You know why I'm angry. But I don't know what to do, or I know what to do and I'm afraid to do it. It's kind of a rhetorical question to ask. What do I do? But there it is. What do I do? All right, I'm going to let you guys go, because otherwise I'm going to sit here talking for another 30 minutes about stuff I've already talked about for 30 minutes. So I will let you guys go on your merry way, and as always, be careless.